Hi guys, it's Teresa. Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm gonna rant a little bit more about my Booktube pet peeves. I already did a video about this topic like a few months ago, I think, so I will link it if you haven't seen it yet. But I had a really fun time doing that video, and it seems like a lot of you agreed with me on several of those things. And so I thought, let's keep talking about this, because I think constructive criticism in itself can only make the community better, and it can only, you know, if it's not meant in an offensive way, which it definitely isn't coming from me, I think it can be really good to be sort of thought-provoking maybe, or like getting people to just think about issues that they might not think about. And it doesn't mean that they have to necessarily agree with me, but I still like putting things out there and seeing how people feel about it. Again, a little bit of a disclaimer. I don't mean to offend anyone who does these things. I'm not mad at you for doing these things. They're just little bits and pieces that kind of annoy me whenever I see people do them in a video or something like that. And also, I'm not gonna just talk about booktubers today, but also just the booktube community as a whole and some of the things that people tend to comment, which I also don't like. Anyway, let's just get started. So the very first thing that I really don't like is when people review books that they haven't even read yet. Now this happens usually when a book is not even released yet and the people really like the author, so they give it 5 stars without ever having read a page of it. Or if a book somehow gets like a bad reputation and then everybody kind of jumps to conclusions based on a few buzzwords that they don't like and like rate it 1 star and like leave horrible reviews again without ever having read it. I think neither of those things is constructive. I think neither of those things is necessary. You can support the author by buying his or her book, and if you feel like the book is gonna have some problematic issues in it, you can always try to get it via NetGalley, read it, and then discuss those issues, whether they actually appear in the book, in what way, and all that stuff. But just based on the name of the person writing the book or based on the synopsis, you cannot rate a book. And the thing is, personally for you, like I don't even care if people like leave reviews if they're not rated, but giving the book a star rating increases or decreases the likelihood of other people picking it up. And it is very damaging, I think, especially to newer authors, and I think it's also misleading and can lead to a lot of hype with people that are very popular, and it just is so nonsensical. Don't do it. Really. Get excited about a book another way, but don't give it a rating if you haven't read it yet. The next thing isn't so much something that annoys me, but whenever I encounter it, I like sigh a little bit inside or outside. And that's when people feel like they aren't allowed to have an opinion on a book because of their race or sexual orientation or whatever thing like that. Let me explain. So what I mean by this issue that I have sometimes is, for example, when a white person reads a book written from the perspective of a black person, they would then like kind of withhold opinion on the book and say like, oh, I can't speak to this because I'm white, so I'm not gonna say anything about it. That is valid, I think, to a certain degree. I think it makes sense to be like, oh, I can't say if the experience depicted in the book is accurate or not, but it doesn't mean, I think, that you're not allowed to have any opinion at all. You know, like you can still enjoy or not enjoy a book completely separate from that, I think. And I mean, obviously you can't say things like, oh, I as a white person love this book written from the perspective of a black person and I think that it's correct, so you should all read it and love it. You know, I think that's not okay, right? But still, as a person, you are allowed to have an opinion on something, regardless of who you are. And I think sometimes it is good to say things like, to kind of put a disclaimer on it and say, okay, I can't relate to this personally, but to me it appears realistic, or to me it appears well explained and well depicted, and the book can still be written in a perfectly good way. Like, you can still judge those things. I think as long as you know where you're coming from and other people know where you're coming from. Yeah, and I just like don't like this idea that only certain groups of people are allowed to have opinions on certain books. You know, you're still allowed to rate it. You're still allowed to talk about it. Even if you personally, like your group of people or your ethnicity isn't depicted in the book. That's all I'm saying. The next point kind of goes along with that, and it's when people feel like they are not allowed to dislike diverse books. Again, this is mostly a thing that happens in the YA community. Because I think in like a lot of adult youth booktubers that I watch naturally are very interested in sort of diversity, and I feel like the diversity that exists in the adult, it's not an adult genre, right? But like among adult, like if you're someone who reads like literary fiction and like you read like The Prices or something, like there's always a lot of diversity, I think, and like especially in terms of topics, and that to me is like real diversity. Whereas the YA diversity feels a little bit contrived and a little bit gimmicky, and I've talked about this before, I won't get into it again. But so I feel like sometimes booktubers, again YA booktubers, feel the need to, you know, say like, oh, the book, I gave this book 3 stars, right? Because I didn't like the story, I didn't like the characters, I didn't like the ending, I didn't like the world building, but it has a homosexual character, it has people of color, it has disability representation or something like that, so I'm giving it 3 stars because diversity. So I don't know if this is people genuinely feeling that just the fact alone that a book includes a diverse cast of characters is enough to make it, to bump it like to 3 stars, or if people are actually afraid of disliking the book, because there's always going to be someone who's going to be like, oh, you don't like a book about black people? That means you hate black people. Because that's the only logical conclusion to be drawn from that. So maybe here it's more sort of the community as a whole and like the attitudes present in the community that are kind of the issue here, instead of the people themselves that say these things or do these things. It's very important to have books out there that do these things, that have diverse cast of characters, diverse setting, that try to be inclusive, that spread positive messages. That is very important, especially in young adult. But also, that is not the only thing that makes up a book. There are so many other things that a book can do right or wrong that to completely disregard them just in favor of diversity, I think is bad. Like how it needs to be a good book in and of itself. And to me, it just sometimes appears that isn't the number one priority for a lot of people. Let's lighten it up a little bit. The next one is a little bit maybe silly, I don't know, but it really annoys me when people don't talk about books they didn't like. There's a few booktubers that I constantly like watch that do this, and they're gonna like do their wrap up normally and talk about each book individually for a few minutes, and then they get to one that is like a 1-star read and they're like, this is this book and I gave it 1 star and let's not talk about it. And then they move on and I'm like, but why? I need to know why. Please let me know your reasons. It's not enough for me to know that you didn't like it. I want to know why you didn't like it. I want to hear you rant about it, because that's my favorite kind of video almost. I'm not a negative person, I promise, but I really love watching rant videos for some reason. Don't lie, you do too. Again, I don't know if this is a personality thing or if it's again because I don't want to get backlash from the community, but please, if you don't like a book, tell me why. Take a few minutes, as long as you talked about all the other books, and talk about it, because again, like, I think it's really important to say why you don't like something just as much as it's important to say why you liked something, because your viewers will be sort of influenced by that, obviously, and there'll be people who just like won't read a book because you say you didn't like it, but there are also going to be people who are like, well, what aspects did you not like? Maybe there are other things that maybe for other people those aspects wouldn't be an issue as much as they were for you, so they would still consider reading it, but because you didn't tell them what you didn't like, that is now kind of impossible. So please tell us why. No matter what. It kind of goes both ways though. I also don't like people who are just like, this book is so awesome, oh my god. And I will say I've done this before. I have been guilty of this, because sometimes I read a book, I like devour it so quickly that I don't even remember afterwards what exactly it is that I loved so much, but because I just remember this like overwhelming feeling of like, oh my god. I feel like it's like the situation where you're one of these like blow up men, you know, they're like, they have their hands like this. I don't know. There's a scene from Modern Family where Phil does this for like an episode. let me know if you know it. But for the most part, I try to give you like reasons why I like books. And there's some people that never give any reasons. I was just like, this is the best book I've ever read, and then the other book is also the best book I ever read. So helpful reviews would be nice. That's all I'm saying. And the final one is again kind of more not towards booktubers but towards commenters, which is, this happens so much in like videos. I think it was in my Booktube pet peeves video and also in my why I don't like audiobooks video. I got this so many times. I was basically buried in comments of this kind, and it was just not fun. Let's just establish something first. It is fine for someone, a single individual person that has no power to influence anything anyway, to like or to dislike something that is useful to other people. That is okay. There's nothing wrong with that, because it doesn't mean that the person wants those things to disappear. It just means that they don't like it themselves. So when I say that I don't like audiobooks, you don't need to jump down my throat talking to me about blind people or people with dyslexia, because of course audiobooks are perfect for those people, and I love that they exist. I love that people that have trouble reading and that or can't read have the opportunity to experience those stories as well. But to me, personally, it will never be the same. And that's not offensive to you because it doesn't affect you at all. I'm not saying audiobooks should be banned. I'm not saying, oh, you read audiobooks, you're not a reader. I'm not saying any of those things. I'm just saying I don't like audiobooks, and I'm saying to me the experience is not the same, and I'm saying if you're listening to audiobooks, say that you're listening to them, because there's no reading audiobooks. Oh, you read audiobooks. And it's petty. I've said that before. It's very petty, but it is a completely different thing. That is literally all. That's all. If you want to listen to audiobooks all your life, then please do. Go ahead and do it. I don't care. I actually don't care, because it doesn't affect me, and what I do doesn't affect you. So let's separate those things. Let's not make everything into a political issue when it clearly isn't. It is just my opinion. Okay, moving on, because I needed to say that. Clearly. Right, there we go. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for listening to my issues, because I needed to deal with them. And let me know in the comments down below if you agree with the things that bother me. If you disagree with them, please be respectful as always. And if you have any other pet peeves on Booktube or YouTube in general that bother you. I will see you very soon with another video. Don't forget to like this one and subscribe to my channel for new uploads every Tuesday and Friday. And in the meantime, head on over there to check out some other videos I recently did. Thank you so much. I will see you soon. Have a lovely week. Bye!